Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
This is Night Dreams Talk Radio Network News, and I'm James Creechbaum. The Kongomodo, Africa's flying, prehistoric-looking reptilian cryptid. African natives have seen and encountered Kongomodo. They have beliefs about the cryptid they deem to be a real animal, not supernatural. What might it be? Well, Africans, when shown a picture of a pterodactyl, they agree that the cryptids look just like it. Could these flying reptiles have survived from the age of the dinosaurs? Africans reported seeing flying animals that match the description of these creatures for ages, and reported that some people have even been killed by them. Now, those who were shown pictures of the pterodactyl agreed that it was the Kongomodo. Now, one African was wounded by a strange, huge bird, and when he was shown the pterosaur's picture, he screamed and fled in horror. A man went to a hospital ER with a severe chest wound and told the doctor that a huge bird attacked him, and that was in the swamps of the area. When asked to draw a picture of the creature, the sketch resembled a pterosaur. Now, Kongomodo could be mistaken for two species of birds that live in Zambia's swampy regions. One of them is a shoebill stork, and it's a dark feathered bird, and it has an 8-foot wingspan. And the other one is the saddle-billed stork, and it has a wingspan of 8 feet also. Well, there's a video from Okanagan Lake, and a couple claim the UFO they have filmed. Now, the one witness says, the 146-year-old witness, he had binoculars in his car and was able to observe the UFO for at least 10 minutes. He said the object stayed in the same spot the entire time, while different colored lights flashed from it. And when viewed through the binoculars, the flashing colors were very more noticeable, and there was no sound on top of all that. Mystery of 300 starlings found dead in the middle of the road may have been solved. A flock appeared to have died in mysterious circumstances when they were found strewn across a country lane in the UK. Now, results of the post-mortem examinations on the birds, and they have rolled out several possible explanations. A spokesman for the department said the laboratory's view is blunt force trauma is the main cause. The Rural Crime Team said that the most likely explanation was that a flock had taken evasive action, probably to avoid a predator such as a bird of prey, and that some of them had slammed into the ground as the murmuration changed course. Storm Dennis, a ghost ship washes up on an Irish coast. Now, a ghost cargo ship was washed up off the coast of County Cork, Ireland, and it brought in by the bad weather that, laced Europe with Storm Dennis. Now, the abandoned boat was spotted on the rocks of a fishing village of Ballycotton by a passerby. The vessel appears to have drifted thousands of miles over more than a year from the southeast of Bermuda in 2018 across the Atlantic Ocean. Historic Plymouth Rock defaced with spray paint. One of America's most revered and important landmarks has been defaced by vandals. Plymouth Rock was spray painted with graffiti by so far unknown perpetrators. The monument was badly defaced, and a search is underway to apprehend those who were involved in the incident, which has shocked the local community and the wider public. A bizarre jellyfish species can sting you without touch by hurling mucus grenades. The species of jellyfish hunts its prey by hurling venom grenades to create stinging water, researchers said Thursday, solving a long-standing mystery as to how they gather food without tentacles. The upside-down jellyfish, found in shallow waters around Florida, the Caribbean, and Micronesia, is a frequent nuisance to snorkelers and surfers who appear to get stung without touching the creatures. Also, the human. Speaking of those human remains that were found in Gainesville home, The Gainesville police are investigating jars of preserved human remains that were found in a crawl space in that home. The remains were discovered during an inspection of the house's foundation, and they're looking into the possibility that the human remains are related to the work that Dr. Bauman may have brought home and stored under the house's floorboards. Some of the jars date back to the 1960s, and they do contain, some of them contain human tongues. Next news break, next show.
You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Think about it. Jars of tongues hid underneath the floorboards. Does that sound normal? If somebody was bringing their work home, why would they hide it? I don't know. Maybe he was doing some special work in the early 60s. We never know. Patrick, people want to know a little bit now about your UFO abduction with aliens. And there is rumor around that you maybe were implanted and you got a hold of the late Dr. Roger Leir.
Yeah, all that has happened. Yes, it's very true. Again, I don't really, I mostly try to do the paranormal and the ghosts because that's more real that you can understand. But I have no clue, and it's still, I scratch my head about the whole UFO and the whole UFO thing that has happened. I have been abducted several times. I don't know if it's connection from the paranormal or not, because my father was very involved with the secret documents and secret things that are going on from UFOs and from NASA in general. So that could have been very well what happened. But for a while there, a couple of years, I was actually followed by Men in Black. And I can attest that it's real. And Men in Black are basically these so-called people that are dressed all in black, white shirts with a black tie, black glasses, and they drive around in limos and black cars with no license plates. And for whatever reason, they follow you around, and they can psychically talk to you and do whatever they want, tell you what to do, and tell you to cease and desist or leave them alone, and put images and ideas in your head, and you follow them, and you don't know why.
That is scary. How old were you when that first happened, when you were abducted?
Well, I was probably abducted at an early age when I was at my house first, living at home and, with my parents. But, I think the first thing was I remember just being lifted up from my bed, literally, and I was about maybe 21, 22, and no control. It was like you were being lifted up by something, and it went through the floorboards. It went right through the house. And I could remember the fibers and everything cracking, everything going bang, you're smashing through a wall. And didn't remember anything after that. All I remember the next day I woke up with, things, marks on my body. I had like red marks, pin marks, and, pin marks, like almost red needle marks on my temples on both sides. And I still, to this day, don't remember what it was. I still don't remember anything. All I remember is I woke up and I just felt sick, and I felt like, something entered me, and all I remember was going through the roof, and that was it. And then later on, years later, there was another thing that happened, which probably was worse, that I was in this house, and it was an apartment with my wife, and we're sleeping together, and for someone, I was very much in the paranormal. I was very much into getting to the bottom of UFOs, because there was a lot of things going on with Blue Book, and Blue Book disclosure was getting really big at the time. People wanted to find out why. Well, all this stuff was being declassified, and my dad worked with Blue Book and all this intelligence agencies, with NASA. So I was talking about it on TV, and next thing I know, I was like lying in my bed, and I'm just becoming like numb. I just feel like something like cold is going on me, and my body's numbing. My wife was beside me. She couldn't wake up. She didn't know what was going on. She was frozen. I was totally awake, but frozen, like my body could not move, and I'm being lifted off the bed, and I hear this huge power drill going off, like, and just a blue light going shining, flying like an arc a light going right through the wall and right through the whole room, and the smoke, a blue smoke, and then being lifted off the bed. I could totally be perfectly remember everything, but I was frozen. I couldn't move except for my eyes, and I'm going, oh, great, here I go again. I'm going right through the wall. And I can remember cracking and going through the wall, and then being lifted up in a blue light. I couldn't remember anything after that. Next morning, I woke up naked all over the floor, upside down, leaves and everything all over me, and dirt on my legs and on my feet, and I had no clue what the hell happened. And my wife goes, "What are you doing? Partying around in the, jumping around in the the dirt next door to the, ballpark?" I have no idea what the hell happened. I still to this day don't know what happened.
That would be scary. Now, what made you contact Dr. Roger Leir?
Well, he was actually, very famous in Los Angeles and in the States. And I said, I have some serious problems. I said, and he was helping. He wasn't charging money at the time. He was helping. He was saying he was really a doctor of the paranormal. He was a doctor to try and doctor and investigate and research what was going on. I said, so he was doing a show in Toronto, Canada, and I said, I got to meet this guy. I got to go there. I got to tell him what's happening. So I went there, and he would actually do a whole show and talk about people, and anybody who had any paranormal or implants or anything like that, he would take x-rays, and he had an x-ray there, and he had system set up, and he had an off, like a thing, all on the side, and said, well, if you got stuff and you got stories to tell and you got implants, come there. So he had a big turnout. I think there was at least 100 people there, and I said, seriously, I had problems. He said, okay, well, what's going on? So he checked me out. And, took, x-rays of my nasal cavity, my nose, and then literally he found something there. And then I said, well, I had this thing in my hand, my right hand, for ages in my finger. And so I was oh my God, it hurts and it's hell. And, it's there's something there. And I went to the hospital and they can't figure it out. So he checked it out, and then later on came back and said, yeah, well, there's something there, and the x-ray showed there was an implant in my finger and in my nose. And it was so stuck up in my nasal cavity that I couldn't get out. It was always something sore, you stuck something in your nose. And the more I went to the doctors, the more it hurt. The more it would just keep going deeper, and it hurt like hell. It was attached. The doctors even said it was attached to my spine, and you could actually have spine damage from this whatever extraterrestrial thing in my body. And I go, oh my God, I was just freaking out. I think it was an alien implant to just attract or, track me as, another body from the aliens.
It sounds like it. We had Timothy Cullen on the show numerous times. He was, I think, the number 9th implant removal from the late Dr. Roger Leir. And when they pulled out his implant, it had a silver content, but with other, metals mixed with it. But when they sent it out to the lab report came back and said it could not ever been formulated on this planet.
Well, I had I guess you could say a filament. That's what I can call it. I don't know what it is. It's half fiber optic, half silver. And it was, again, in my finger for many years, 10 years I lived with that thing. And they finally took pieces of it because it would grow out. I don't know how, but they were able to get pieces of it. And they said that, and they evaluated, Dr. Leir evaluated, said this is not anything made, human made in on this earth. It was synthetic in form, but there was no properties that would ever disclose what it was. So it was bizarre, and I had to live with that.
That's scary. I really wonder sometimes what the implant is there for. Is it to maybe condition a person or track them or read their thoughts? Or, back, in the 60s and 70s, or actually about the 60s, Russia was famous of sending sleeper agents over this country that were totally brainwashed. They didn't even realize that they were, spies and agents. They were, from a young kid, trained, to be, a sleeper